Hey everyone, welcome. Let me just double check my settings and everything, make sure you can hear me. So let's see, my audio is, yep, microphone and speakers are up top, so I should be good to go. Sorry, I was practically late. I forgot that I actually leave job at 7 o'clock on Monday nights, and trying to rush home in time for an 8:30 startup was just not good planning on my part. But here I am, and it is on time. I may have to take a very brief break to go bring my daughter's car into the garage once she gets home. So that will be a real quick little interlude. Or hopefully I could put it off a little bit into the stream sometime around 9:30 or so. And so we will go with that and see how things pan out. I am expecting some pretty heavy snow between early hours this morning and going into tomorrow. So hopefully that doesn't interfere, and hopefully everyone on the East Coast is being affected is going to stay safe. So without further hesitancy, let's see who is in the house. So Kentucky Rex, hello, how's it going? Let's see, we have Ducato, good to see you, bro. Let's see, part-time DM. First live stream I've joined. Can't wait to hear from you. Well, cool. It's great to have you here. And I know a lot of people are, it's always hard to find that magic time, in the evenings to catch a live stream when no one else is live streaming, or, just catch that little, sweet spot when more people can come in. And that's always great. Let's see. We have, so we're getting snow here, but it's supposed to stay mid-30s here. Don't see it sticking. Yeah, we'll see. I'm in New York, like mid-Hudson, New York. So originally they were saying we were supposed to get 6 to 12. Now they say below a certain point, it's going to hit more the city than up by us. And so now they've said we're going to get anywhere from a trace to 12 inches. So that doesn't really help very much in figuring out what the heck is going on. My wife's school is closed. New York City schools are closed already. So we shall see what's going on. Hopefully my daughter's colleges are closed. They already canceled the morning classes. I'm hoping they canceled the nighttime classes, so I don't have to do all that nonsense. Snow, we're already getting mud season. Yeah, I keep on saying, and these snows on Tuesday nights or going into Tuesdays really suck, because it always interferes with my game night on Tuesday. And my older daughter has a night class that lets out at 9 o'clock. And so that's a real, that's right smack dab in the center of my game night time. So it's a problem. But better that I risk myself driving and picking her up than her driving by herself home. Yep, so roll D12, yes. And hello, Chris of Yig, good to see you. Yes, rolling a D12. There's probably a chart, a nice weather chart here in Hyperborea that I could look up. And I know I came across some other extreme weather chart in some other game I was looking at over the last couple of days. So let's see. So anyway, so the title was has D&D 5e gone downhill since 2019, as per Joe Manganiello. I mean, there's different ways of saying his name, I guess. I don't even know how he says his own name, but in Italian it would be Manganiello. So that would be the more Italian pronunciation. I don't know if he uses that. His name is a derivative of saying mangia, so it's which means to eat, by the way. So anyway, and yes, I mean, we will jump the gun here, Ducato, and absolutely, I agreed with everything that he said, and I am going to bring that up. I'm going to share that clip with everybody so that you can see just his portion. Now, this is courtesy of you know the character sheet at comicbookscott.com. So they did a very, very brief little snippet of him. I don't know where his original interview was from, but I have a really purposeful reason why this is something that resonates with me. And I'm a huge Dragonlance fan, and that's where this really came out of, was the announcement that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are not going to support the live action Dragonlance TV series or whatever HBO series that Joe was going to run. He already wrote the script for it. Had plenty of Hollywood friends, HBO included, that was going to, they greenlit it, I should say. They greenlit it, and it was ready to go. And then supposedly because of the poor sales of Wizards of the Coast Dragonlance venture from last year, and that means that the much touted improvement of Dragonlance. So that would be Shadow of the Dragon Queen, and that huge slipcase, and all of the hoopla around that, with a board game that was kind of a supplement to it, so that you'd play both in order to get the full scenario of the RPG portion of it, and then the battle tactics portion of it combined. And lo and behold, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast basically come out and admit that the sales were widely underwhelming, and that we know that the board game was up for sale at Ollie's for something like $8 or something ridiculous, or even $2.99 or something crazy like that. Like, it was like under $5 to get something that's sold for like 50 separately, and the whole shebang was something like close to $100 or something like that. So way to go, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, to take something that should have been a home run, and basically just mediocring it to the point that no one wanted to buy it. So anyway, let's see. I ain't read or heard what he has to say yet, so I'm assuming he's not talking about quality. No, he's talking about. Well, I'm going to let him do the talking. So I am going to share and let you hear this for yourselves. And here we go.
Manganiello has some thoughts about the direction of Dungeons & Dragons. In a recent interview with our parent site, comicbook.com, Manganiello says that D&D is going downhill and blames the game's departure from its roots on Mike Mearls being pushed out as creative director of D&D back in 2019. Now, you can hear his full thoughts in this clip.
Mike Mearls and Rodney Thompson, Peter Lee, Rob Schwab, what you would call Project Iowa. Project Iowa was towards the end of 4th edition. They put together a little crack team to create a new edition of the game, which they thought was going to be the end. They thought it was going to be over. Judging by the numbers of 4th edition, the vitriol towards towards that edition, they decide it's over. And everyone really left the game. Most people were playing Pathfinder, or even more people were playing Pathfinder. And so, Mike Mearls was put in charge of this team to try to figure out what to do next. And they started polling the fans that were left over. But mind you, at that time, whoever was left during 4th edition, really, 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 they were diehard lovers of the game. And so when you reach out and you ask a really concentrated fan base what to do next, you're going to get good answers, because they're people that have been with this thing from the jump, and this is what's wrong. And so the feedback was really fantastic for what went into 5th edition, and Mearls was smart enough, he listened to it all. And so, created this edition that then became the most popular tabletop gaming a system of all time. I mean, it's not even close. The 50 million people during COVID that were playing, that mind you is way less now, but that peak 50 million during COVID, that's Mike Mearls and company. They made a better edition than even Gary did. You have to give all credit to Gary and Arneson and kind of the gang in the Midwest, but what Mike Mearls did and company did with that game is mind blowing. And then of course, the Twitter mob rises up and with the pitchforks and the torches, and it was right in that weird kind of spot when all that was at its height, and everybody was really listening to the mob in that way. And there were some people within the company that saw their opportunity to try to go for Mike's head and get him out of the driver's seat. And they were successful, and they were allowed to do it. And since then, it was kind of like I told Mike at one point, it's like Jimmy Johnson winning back-to-back Super Bowls with the Cowboys, and kicking him out, replacing him with Barry Switzer, and then just dismantling the team. I mean, that's kind of what it was like. It was like there were a bunch of people that then saw their opportunity to try to take credit for what Mike did, try to launch and alter the game into a new edition that and it just has, it's gone downhill ever since.
We're getting another.
Okay, so there pretty much you have you have what he said. I hope that you were able to hear everything well. If not, I'll run it again and see. But yeah, he was a really great fan of Dragonlance, and like he went to Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss, and they gave the seal of approval. The script readers, at HBO were like, hey, this is rock solid. Everybody was on board with it, and maybe that's part of the reason why that Hasbro and and Wizards of the Coast basically stepped away from it, because believe it or not, maybe it would have been too successful, and so it would have reflected poorly on them, because what they had produced was not very successful, or I don't know. It's just one of those other things that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro has done, through 2023 and now early into 2024, that makes us scratch our heads and wonder. It's possibly the fact that they really don't want anything from the old school, from the original, TSR, from the original creators, or even that second wave of creators, Hickman and Weiss, really having anything that outshines what Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins and the current Wizards of the Coast group have been putting together. So I absolutely agree with him. Even to the date, looking at 2019, I've always attributed the fact that Tasha's Cauldron of Everything basically gutted the very essence of what Dungeons and Dragons was at its inception, and certainly what it was with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Um, taking out those components that were, according to Gary Gygax, essential pieces that make it Dungeons and Dragons. And we keep on seeing that. We see that with many of the things that they're doing. Now I see that they're, I've heard and read some things where they're talking about toning down the Underdark and making it not so nasty. And you remember if you look at like demons and devils are, usually evil. In other words, so that they could be something else, and you can swap out racial traits and modifiers and such, and just a total watering down and stepping as far away from Dave Arneson, which they don't even recognize anymore, and Gary Gygax, which they've removed, and from all references as far as they possibly can, and and I think that's what it really is that they want to just put what made the game in the past completely out of view of anything, and nothing's allowed to shine unless it was created by them within even the last couple of years. Because you're going to watch, they're going to start to decanonize things going back to prior to 2019. So anyway, let's see some comments here. The whole DL release was nothing but a cash and burn. Yes, or crash and burn. Both. It was a cash and burn. It was a cash grab, and then burn it all down. They put no real effort into it. It was very from people that I've heard that have tried to run it. It's very, very railroady, and very few people actually ran it. It's just not that good. For the same price, you could probably get your hands on, the first 5 Dragonlance adventures and run those, or you can pick up the original AD&D first edition source book for Dragonlance, and for about $40, and you can run your own stuff using that as well. So it's a shame. It's a shame that he put so much time into it, and it was just dropped. But I think more so than his just disappointment in that, it's it's a genuine belief that the game has taken a downturn since 2019. And if it wasn't for COVID and so many people coming into the hobby during the shutdowns, and everybody was going virtual and such, that's what really made it boom during that time. But now that that's all behind us, people are starting to move to other things, and both for good reason and for, I think, the benefit of the hobby as well. So let's see. Part of me thinks WotC deliberately undercooked the Dragonlance book to kill the series. Yeah, and I think that's very, very possible. Is they have so far, especially since Mike Mearls was removed from the Dungeons and Dragons team, they have made a concerted effort to destroy everything from older, TSR, and everything they've touched has been like the Mierta touch, that just trying to shit on it rather than truly boost it. By the way, if anyone wants to jump in and join the chat, I am going to put the link up so that you can jump in and and let me know directly what you're thinking about as well. You know what's as bad when they can't make money off Dragonlance. I know it's quite bizarre that I've never seen a company put a disclaimer on their own IP. I mean, you talk about something. It's like the courts and everyone had to fight tooth and nail to get the tobacco industry to actually put warning labels on their own product. And here you have Wizards of the Coast gleefully adding warning labels on all of their owned IPs from previous editions of the game. Yeah, and Steve, how much was it? I think it was certainly under $10. I thought it was like maybe 5 or 8 or even less. There was something that was like there was one of those things was like $2.99. I think it was the travel kit that gave you like the tokens and all those kind of playing aids and everything. That would have definitely been worth it because you could use that for other better games. I've always heard 5e was supposed to be modular because they thought it was the end. Yes, and that's something that both Mike Merle spoke about directly. That's something that the RPG Pundit, because he was a contributor to it, he also mentioned it as well. There were certain elements that were supposed not to go in, but the powers that be, even those above Mike Merle's, wanted them in. And so there was some compromising being done at that time as well. And I think that what you ended up with is a game system for those first 2 years that was a very manageable game system. It is only what really happened thereafter where it really did start to take a turn for the worse, as as Joe Manganiello says as well. Well, I can understand why, Ducato, that they didn't, because they just came out of a lawsuit with them, and that's because they didn't. Weiss and Hickman were already writing a new series of books, and they wrote the first one. They were almost done with the second one, and getting prepared to start the third one, and then Wizards of the Coast started making demands on changes that they wanted to see in, I believe, the second one. The first one was already done, so they weren't going to revisit that. And then that's when the lawsuit happened, because Weiss and Hickman wanted to maintain control over the story that they were telling in their novels. And again, the only reason why Wizards of the Coast wanted to piggyback off the novels was to push their slipcase canon hardbacks and all that nonsense, but they're too one and done. All right, and I've made this argument about Wizards of the Coast when they bring out these older IP, especially the iconic ones. They are going to make one run of it and then not support it ever again. All right, they will never do Dragonlance again. They will never do Ravenloft again. They will never do games or modules or supplements like the Tomb of Annihilation, which is a throwback to the Tomb of Horrors, or they're just not going to touch these things again. They're supposed to come out with a Vecna either adventure path or something along those lines. They're going to do one and never revisit it again. There's no they don't build capacity for series of adventures, or just bringing people in. They will never do another setting book again. um, Everything now is going to be multiverse, and so they don't have to take the risk of creating anything, um, or attempt to create anything, because I think, quite frankly, I think they lack the talent and the creativity to actually create a setting that's going to be compelling. um, so just bizarre, just bizarre the way that they are functioning. um it's almost like they really don't care about the tabletop role playing game, and I think that's fairly obvious to most of us. Yes, the artificial boom. uh And then here we go. If appropriate, I have a great system that I am supporting that is an excellent option. Sure, you could throw that in there. Heck, I would love to. Hawkins Sparrow, love to see it. And I will definitely check it out if it's something that's already in production, or whatever. Would love to see it. Sound was good and clear. Excellent. Thank you. I know I'm catching up to the discussions here. Uh, Part-time DM, it seems that people who are making direction choices don't know what the hobby is. Just because MTG makes a ton of money using a particular business model doesn't mean that it's good for D&D. Yeah, and they're not even looking to build on that model. They're looking to do the video game model. They think that D&D is going to be Fortnite, and it will never be Fortnite, never even come to 1/10 the size of Fortnite. And it's just not designed or thought of to be that. 6E will give us the safety tools and lectures. Yeah, and the other thing that 6E, and this is why it's 6E. All right. This is my litmus test for whether or not this is a new edition. If it is truly a fifth edition reimagining, or just a redirection, or whatever, then it will have Mike Merle's name in there as a co-creator. All right, as a co-designer. All right. If it removes his name completely, it's a new edition. Because how do you take the primary architect of 5e and remove him from it, if it is in fact a just an expansion or an extension or whatever you want to call it? So if his name's not in there, it's a sixth edition. All right. And they're doing exactly what Gary Gygax did to remove Dave Arneson's name when he created AD&D first edition. It's exactly the same step that they're looking to do here. And it is sixth edition, hands down, without question, unless Mike Merle's name is in that as at least a co-designer for the core of the system. More festivals. Yes, Tasha's book was crap. My Kill Switch, yeah, I never went back to, and even the core rule books, from 2015 on till 2017 or 18, whenever Tasha's first came out. Most people running fifth edition were changing the very things that became synonymous with fifth edition. I played as a player in probably 6 campaigns of fifth edition, and in 4 of them there were no death saves, no short rests, no no long rests, no all of these different layers of action economy and such. But certainly in those, they immediately got rid of the death saves and the short rests, and that really tells me that as popular and good as the game was in its initial offering, people immediately started changing the very things that it was known for, and that tells you how that tells you where that that modularity that it was supposed to have kind of fell off from there. So anyway, let's see. D&D 5e is probably the best version of D&D out there. Unfortunately, the quality of the products from WotC has been abysmal, so I stopped buying WotC crap over 2 years ago. Yeah, you know what? It's not ever been better than. I don't think it's ever been better than BECME. I think that the basic box set in 1983 surpasses it. I never liked it better than AD&D First Edition. I think that it's Rules Cyclopedia is oftentimes referred to as the best uh, Dungeons and Dragons that's out there. And I would still debate that. I would still put D&D BECME over that as well. But 5e was never the best version, at least in my opinion, was never the best version of D&D that was out there. It was the best selling, that's for certain, but it's always been the McDonald's hamburger of tabletop role-playing games. Okay, let's see. The setting they have chained to 5e has become a homogenous blob fantasy product that just happens to have the D&D name on it. Yeah, there's, when people talk about, when people talk about the Forgotten Realms, they said, yeah, it's the Sword Coast, and then everything else is the Forgotten Realms. It's like they're totally forgotten. There's nothing that takes place outside of the Sword Coast as far as Wizards of the Coast is concerned. So even the one setting that they supposedly based the entire game on has not been fleshed out beyond the 10% that they've already gone over and over again with. Yeah, I don't think either are really, all that um all that talented when it comes to putting it onto paper and truly game testing it and getting a more diverse opinion over what makes for a good role-playing game. I think that they're functioning within their own echo chamber of predominantly 4E uh 4E people, and that's what they're kind of shooting for. Yes. And TSL Frontman, welcome too. I've never seen your name before, so welcome to the channel, and I hope you're enjoying this. Remember, everyone, you can jump in on the chat. I will post the link, so this will allow you to come right in if you want to add to any of this discussion as well. This has been pretty hot news for the last couple of days. Usually I don't do very much over the weekends, so weekends is usually family time and such, and so I think this first came out on the character sheet at comicbook.com back on Friday, and so it kind of hit like the news cycle of it. I'm a day or two behind on this. I see there's a new brouhaha already coming up with Wizards of the Coast, where they just announced today their release dates. And these are confirmed release dates of some of the stuff that they have coming out. And the big thing is that the monster manual for D&D 6th edition is not even coming out until February of 2025. And if you know anything about the release dates of, let's say, old school D&D, particularly AD&D First Edition, Gary believed that you should release the monster manual first, because everything else really comes and is built around that piece. So the fact that they're doing it last also kind of tells you how backwards some of their design approaches are compared to what it used to be. No, I don't think that they will, Kentucky Rex. I don't think that they'll touch anything older, because they don't have the talent to do it any justice, and secondly, they don't want to even acknowledge that it exists. They will mothball all of those older IPs, and they're not concerned about them. They're happy that they own them so that nobody else can touch them, and they're going to throw them in the vault and leave them sealed up forever. And you'll never see Mystara, you'll never see Greyhawk being touched, because they'll be seen as too problematic for them to touch those. You won't see Boot Hill. You certainly won't see Star Frontiers anymore. I mean, they screwed up the Hato Z and their own product when they came out with the what was that, Spelljammer. They screwed that up. So imagine them trying to manage Star Frontiers. They couldn't touch it. They couldn't manage to deal with it. So yeah, they just don't know what they're doing as far as the direction of Dungeons and Dragons, and that is directly attributed to the fact that they removed Mike Mearls as Joe Manganiello. What a tough name. Manganiello put out there. Perkins looks like he'd rather not be there. Yeah, I'm sure he probably wouldn't rather be there. The Supreme hate the IP they own and the people that built it. Yes, they absolutely do. I'm glad that they think Dark Sun is too problematic for them to use. And the bottom line is that Dark Sun wouldn't be made by virtually any company today either. So that's that's the real gist of it, is that the community that they're looking to attract to their game is not the same community that or same company that attracted us to gaming. Even though we were the youth of that time too, right? It was never presented to us like a kid's game. It was never presented to us to be something that was very lame, quite honestly. It was always a little bit darker and edgier when it was presented to us for the first time, whether that be in 74 through 79, and then AD&D coming out and really driving that kind of a tone. And I don't want to call it a darker tone, but it was just a much more challenging tone in a variety of ways. It was challenging to read. The mathematics was much crunchier, and the stakes involved were much higher, because it was a true heroic fantasy. And that's I think something that they don't know how to do, or they're just they refuse to do it because it's just counter to their concept of gaming. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, so that $50 board game was sold for $10. So it's the terrain boxes. Yeah, $2.99 for the terrain boxes. The terrain boxes was actually a good buy. I do have an Ollie's that's like 45 minutes away, but I was like, bottom line is, even for $2.99, still didn't want to buy it. I was like, nah, I don't want to give anything, not even $3 to WotC, even indirectly. I never played Dark Sun either, to be honest with you. uh, Archer's friend, hello. So 5e blows. I miss AD&D. I just wrapped up a 2-year campaign of AD&D, and I'm running Castles and Crusades now. Ducato runs Castles and Crusades. A lot of us moved to Castles and Crusades, but eventually, I can only imagine that eventually I will end up back with AD&D First Edition. Probably in a year or so, I'll go right back to my roots of AD&D First Edition. That is by far my favorite edition of the game. I could go back to Beckme as well, but so much of D&D has been carried by the enthusiasm of the authors. Artists and writers got paid, but they weren't chasing dollars. Yeah, and granted, that generation is almost gone, right? They're going. I had a great experience of playing in Frank Metzner's game 2 months ago, and in January, as a matter of fact, it was a month ago, and just the way he ran the game, and just his level of knowledge, and but primarily just the way he ran the game. And there were 15 players, and 11 of them got killed, and just I mean, it was just so much fun. And then these were some of the players were young. They were in their 20s and everything, and they had a blast. They had a blast, even though their characters with one bad roll were dead. It was like, that's how deadly this tournament game was. And they loved every bit of it. And I guarantee you, they never experienced that in a 5e game. So it has the potential and the unfortunate potential of that being a lost art of knowing what really does make a convention game exciting is the fact that your character is most likely going to die. And if they ever lose that, I mean, I think that loses the whole mystique of a convention play. All right, let's see what else we have here. I'm going to skip over a few. Let's see what we have here. Hey, Theatus, unscripted on-chain review. Of course, they are not going to revisit any of those settings. They are going to rely on AI to create new adventures on the fly. It will be of lower quality. Yeah, and it's been of lower quality. It's been of lower quality for quite some time now. Every one of those adventure anthologies that they put out is trash. I don't hear anybody running them. No one talks about them. Even Wizards of the Coast don't talk about them. Once they release a book, it's dead to them, and they move on to the next thing. And it's like there's never a sense from Wizards of the Coast that they're seeking to hit the lightning in the bottle. That's not their intention. Their intention is just to keep out churning out, churning out Drek, and they don't care if something hits. If something hits, that's no guarantee that it will be followed up with further support. In fact, they probably won't do that, because that takes more effort to to create something that piggybacks off of a a semi success by producing something better, and they know that they don't have the ability to do that. Yep. So let's see. The sad part is most newer folks to the brand will prefer video games because the product is so bad they will never think about joining the actual game where PC choice matters. Yes. And that's that's the whole thing. That's what they're really looking to do, is to so taint the pool of the OSR and tabletop role playing that they think that that's the way to bring them into their 3D virtual tabletop video game experience. Okay. Thank you very much, Cal. Um, Occasionally I make good points. So let's see. My first heartbreaker was the Dragonlance hexagonal a board game when I was 10. Made the new cards and everything. I wish Dragonlance got the chance at the mainstream. Well, they have something like 200 novels. I mean, they're pretty darn mainstream. It's just that not for Wizards of the Coast. But Dragonlance is a I did a video 2 weeks ago or 2.5 weeks ago where I came across somebody who was like, Dragonlance isn't even Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, are you out of your freaking mind? I mean, it's absolutely Dungeons and Dragons, and it in my opinion, it saved Dungeons and Dragons in the mid '80s. It was a major reason why Dungeons and Dragons got through the Satanic Panic, was the popularity of Dragonlance. In '84 and '85 and moving forward. Castles and Crusades is the best version of D&D. Again, I love the system. I love the system. It's what I'm currently running. I will probably almost always run it, but I would still go back to D&D BECME and a D&D First Edition. Once I get a little bit tired of Castles and Crusades, I will probably shift right back to those two as well, or running parallel. Do more than one. I'm still working on trying to get 2 very consistent game sessions going a week. So right now I'm dealing with Castles and Crusades and Call of Cthulhu, second edition Call of Cthulhu. Yes, I prefer them too. And Moldvay was probably the first edition that I played. I don't recall, and I don't even think my dungeon master from 77 or 78 would even remember which box set he had, or if he had the Moldvay edition of it then. So, I should reach out to him one time and say, hey, do you actually remember which D&D you introduced us to? I don't even know if he still has, a memory of it. Yeah. Yeah, White Box is very, very popular as well. Release the Kraken. Yeah, I'm down to I got this Kraken Gold, and I'm not really too happy with it, if that's the Kraken you're talking about. I certainly I'm a rum drinker. You're probably not thinking of that, Cal, but I certainly am when I see that. Uh, let's see, what else do we have here? I have Swords and Wizardry box set. It is in this It's over there someplace on my shelf. Um, I'm a big fan of what Swords and Wizardry did. I have the white box of Castles and Crusades. You can see right over my shoulder, that shoulder right there. Um, and that's a really nice box set, nice starter kit there to use at convention play. Perfect for convention play. Um, and I have Shadow Dark, and Shadow Dark I think is right along the same lines as that as well. I know some people will attack me and say Shadow Dark is 5e. I don't even see where you get that idea. Um, let's see. Let's see. You're welcome here. Take a load off, grab a seat. It'll be one silver piece for a drink and one gold. May have some stories for it. Yep. Let's see. Yes, he is. Matt Finch is an excellent game designer. Um, and probably one of the best as far as maintaining that old school mentality to it as well. But there's many others. There's a lot of good right. I mean, I love Jeffrey Talanian's work. I love the Chenault brothers from Troll Lord Games and what they do with their game design and such. So there are just so many out there. And bottom line is that um, they're all in their 40s and 50s and maybe some younger than that. But for the most part, they came out of the 80s and the early 90s. Um, creating these things and or really just delving into the hobby around that time frame. So, and these are the second generation creators that are out there. Um, James Ward, of course, and others. From those contemporaries of Gary Gygax at the time too, are still, out and about and doing things as well. But yeah, that crowd that came out during the era of second edition, they're really at the forefront, I think, of producing high quality stuff. I have Palladium, some of the stuff from Palladium, and I played it back in the day, but it never really took the place of AD&D for me at the time. So, but I do have it. There's some stuff that I do like. I never played. I never played Rifts. I would have probably liked to have played Rifts back then. I do have it, and I haven't even started breaking it down and starting to take a real deeper dive into it yet. But certainly something that I might take a look at a little bit later on. I switched to another fantasy game after CNC. It will be Dragonbane or something else by Free League. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of their Blade Runner is an excellent game system. What an awesome system for convention play, and that's really become one of my things. Is what plays well at a convention. I think has become much more important to me. Over these last 2 years or so, it's become part of um, my calculus for what makes a good tabletop role playing game. If it can perform well in a convention setting, to me that's a check mark that you put next to it. Great convention game. Um, that is a huge selling point for me as well. Yeah, that's getting back. I have to get caught up on these comments. But yeah, they do. They're a fire and forget with a lot of the things. Hey O'Neill, how's it going? Uh, Oh, Bear is running it. Oh, that should be good. So let's see who else we have here. Hey, Josh, how's it going? Waiting for my aired book so I can start some CNC. Yeah, I've used right now. I'm using Igsberg for CNC. So I do highly recommend that you pick up this if you don't already have it, Josh. But and this you could drop in any world setting, so you could put this in aired as well. It becomes a separate setting, but it's meant to be a totally separate setting, and they're coming out with even more stuff. And Decado, you'll get a kick out of this. There's Gary Gygax's name right on the front cover as well. That's kind of an inside joke for some of you that might not know it. But yeah, they're coming out with a whole bunch of stuff. If you've seen their announcements, Luke Gygax was on there, and they are the Troll Lord Games is the licensee basically of Gary Gygax's legacy of what's going to come out of his estate for either republication or publication for the first time. And that's really, really exciting stuff. In March, they're going to launch their newest Kickstarter series, which was there were 7 books that Gary Gygax had written about world building and such. So that's going to be, I know that's going to sell really well, because that was Gary Gygax's, in my opinion, that was his greatest strength, was world building. Greyhawk is probably my favorite setting. Actually, I should say it's definitely my favorite setting for D&D, and that's just it's just so easy to just drop your campaigns into it. It allows for that kind of flexibility, and yet there's still enough flavor and structure to it that that it's Greyhawk as soon as you're in it. So that's that's something that I can't wait to see Gary's actual books, where he's writing about his theories of world building and such. So super stoked for that. Yes, it is Gary's last stand, and and not just that. I mean, like I said, we're going to see some new stuff from him, coming through Troll Lord Games. A new board game that was never published before. What was it called? English Kings in France or something like that. It's a whole new board game that never published, by Gary Gygax, and that's one of the few board games that I will probably pick up and check out. The true legacy of Gary Gygax, and absolutely it is. I mean, even Luke Gygax is sitting there and basically saying the same thing. Lottie jettisoned him long ago. Yes, they did. And if I remember the forums right, Gary chose Troll Lord Games to work with. Yes. Yeah, he absolutely did. So for those of you that came on a little bit earlier, I was talking about Joe Manganiello's, his video interview that he did with the character sheet at comicbook.com. Certainly recommend that you go there and you check it out. And he basically laid out that he feels that Dungeons and Dragons has been on a downslide ever since 2019, and that really did begin with the removal of Mike Mearls from the creative team, from being the creative director of Dungeons and Dragons. So and I really love to see him. I can't wait to hear about where Mike Merles ends up. He's still a fairly young guy, so I'm sure that he'll probably end up with some other company, and hopefully it's not wasted on like a Paizo or something like that. Hopefully, it'd be awesome to see him go to Troll Lord Games. That would be really quite incredible. Or maybe somebody else, somebody that is more or as well seated with the OSR and with old school gaming in general. Um, rather than have him go. Most of the independents are not even in the United States, so although I guess he could go to like a Palladium, they're in the United States, obviously, but yeah, Troll Lord Games would be a great place for him to go to if they're looking for a someone with a lot of lead design experience. Yes, he was absolutely a gamer through and through, and he never stuck to his own games or his own company and everything. If you've read his book, he strongly believed that you could never truly be a master of or gain mastery of dungeon mastering or game mastering, as he was forced to call it. And he basically, said that if you're not playing multiple game systems in multiple genres and in multiple settings and with multiple different groups of players, and then ultimately if you're not, and I disagree with him with this, if you're not publishing, although we can split hairs and say, well, when he says publishing, he might just mean like if you're not creating your own things to run at your table, then you will never be a master game master. And that's right there in his book. You can read it yourself. And the book I'm referring to, if you don't happen to know, is Master of the Game. All right. So this is the principles and techniques for becoming an expert role-playing game master. All right, by Gary Gygax. And then he had uh, role play mastery, and this is for the player's perspective as well, to become an excellent role player, uh, or role playing gaming player at the table. I don't want to get people all up. Oh, there's no role playing in this or whatever, but I don't agree with that either. I think there's plenty of role playing in Dungeons and Dragons. I was sad Joe's Hero Quest didn't get published anywhere because it fell just short of its Kickstarter pledge. That guy is the real deal. Joe, are we talking about Joe Manganiello? Yellow? Yes, I would like to see him. And he certainly could. I mean, he certainly seems to be like he's on good terms with Mike Merle. So I would assume that he will probably bring Mike Merles in and the two of them start off. I guarantee you that he would link up with Luke Gygax as well. Although I don't know how Merles and Gygax get along. So but that would be a decent team. I would certainly look for big things to come out of that team up. Yeah. So Joe and Mike should team up, and I think so too. I think that would be a great team up, and and they might be able to, produce something that would really shake, really shake WotC and thinking, oh crap, you know, we made a mistake here, kind of thing. Hey, Malachi, I would love Mike to go over to Free League and head up Dragonbane. Yeah, but he'd have to leave the country, and I don't know if that's such an easy thing to do. I'd love for him to, go to Troll Lord Games and work on something over there, or like Takato, was saying as well, is he and Joe Manganiello get together and make their own thing. That would be really exciting. I think that would be something that people would definitely take notice of. Yeah, that was an early potential, right? So that was their first, obviously, and pretty much their best, and it was not really followed up with anything that rose to that same level, and they screwed it up with the newest version of it, an expansion of it as well, trying to tie it into Baldur's Gate 3, and just in a very shoehorned and disjointed way that they tried to do it. So it's like that. That's their only. That's their modus operandi now, is to try to piggyback off of something else that's done far better than they can create, and then try to glom off of the excitement around it. But they'll never do any follow up because they don't have that talent to actually do that. Let's see. Hey, King, how's it going? Recently, you've been trying GURPS 4E. While you can play with just the basic, the other editions add so much, but also the rules in their own, all over the place. Yeah, and GURPS. I mean, I played GURPS back in the day too, and that for me was one of the. I mean, obviously, it's a generic, a generic system, but it's a classless system, and you're using just skills and everything, and that's just another way of playing that's really exciting, um, interesting way to go about it. You want them in the plot? Yeah, I guess so. Um, Yeah, you see, that's interesting. It's that. Yeah, better systems make for better players. It makes for better game masters. Um, there's a, other systems will give you far more flexibility as a game master, and they really are designed to empower you to be a better game master, and to rulings over rules is a pillar of the OSR, and so that's why it's such a focus of the OSR to maintain that that standard where the dungeon master or the game master is the final decider, the all powerful, and um and they are the creator of the world, and then the players are playing within that world, and they have to empower their players to discover the world, and the story unfolds from there. So there's no need to railroad, in the sense that if you flesh out your world well enough as the players are expanding their own knowledge of it, things will organically just occur, and that's the real spark that you're looking for. People compare it to B2 for a reason. You could chop it up and make it into a sandbox. Yes. It's very, very flexible. Yeah, they could do. I mean, I don't think that they would recreate it and everything. There's probably 5e versions of that out there anyway. And it's probably already in the what do they call that? Um, the Dungeon Masters Guild or whatever their third party. Which, from what I understand, they might be shutting that down come February 24th or something like that. I saw on someone's video where they were mentioning that, and that date came up February 24th. Are they shutting down the Adventurers Guild or something along the lines, or DM's Guild or something? Because they want to gear it up and get it ready to move on to the potentially new sixth edition IP, or whatever, not IP, um, SRD kind of thing. I mute this for a second. Okay, sorry about that. Um, okay, sorry, I'm getting some distractions here. So Goodman Games did an OR of the Lost City. And I know, like, Professional Dungeon Master ran like a campaign for years and years using the Lost City as its central thing. So yeah, that's like one of those adventures that are something that just you know almost like once in a generation kind of a just kind of breaks the mold, and difficult to recreate. Um, and even if you do copy it, it's still not going to capture that same flavor of it. Um, let's see. I'm looking for more comments. I saw something that caught my eye, and now I lost it. Oh, Crown and Skull. Um, Yeah, I'm on the edge. I might pick up Crown and Skull because it is a dramatically different system from what I understand. So it's not at its core D&D. So different system, and I like looking at different systems to learn, about game design from that point on. Um, I want to see it out in the wild, and if I see it being run at conventions, then it's probably something that I would pick up along the way. And like I said, earlier on, that has become kind of my benchmark for games. Is I want to see it out in the wild, and once I start seeing it growing out there and being run at conventions and everything, then it's something that I can see. If I haven't already backed it, then picking up a copy and start learning how to play it, running it, and bringing it to conventions as well. Question for everyone with the experience: is there anything Shadow Dark does poorly? I haven't run it yet. Uh, it's a fairly simple system. So when you have a system that's simple, to run it. It's kind of hard for any of it to be done poorly. Um, I mean, some people will attack it, for the fact that it's just black and white art, which I think is a very superficial thing to say. Because after you've seen the same picture, more than 10 times, if you're still focusing on the pictures in the book, then I question whether or not you're really focused in on running the games at a certain level or playing in a game at a certain level. If you're so hung up on just the art. Art is so, it's nice to have, but like I said, after you've seen the same picture 10 times, if you're seeing it an 11th time, there's something wrong. um, you're not really focusing on what's important, and that is to run the game, or to play in the game. Yeah, I mean, from the quick start, it's a solid game. There's nothing about it that is flawed in any way. It is a very simple system. I think it is ideal for convention play, and maybe that's the thing about it that, if you want to say that it does poorly, is does it really support long campaign style? And maybe it doesn't. I think that that might be the one area that I can see with it, with its design, that it's not really designed for long campaign play. Now, I know that Kelsey Dayon has come out and said, actually, they've been running it for long campaigns and everything, and it can be done. But again, she's trying to hurdle over that perception that it's a great system for one shots, it's a great system for campaign play, but can you truly run it in a long campaign? I know I just saw Ducato just put up here. Mike Shea, the Sly Flourish, has been running a long campaign with Shadow. Yeah, but how long could it be? The game has only been out for about 6 months, let's say. If he's had maybe he got an advanced copy of it, so maybe it gives him 8 months or so on it. um, so I guess if you've been running it, every week for 8 months, you could start calling it a long campaign. Um, but I'm sure Kelsey has been running it for probably 3, 4 years, or at least the starting off with the bare bones of it for about 3, 4 years. Okay, so 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 Larry Elmore and Jeff Easley are fellow Kentuckians, so I'm biased. Yeah, I just watched it by its art. The art sucks. Yeah, it's not even vibrant pastels. It's like kind of boring and bland pastel colors. It's weird how you can get something that's supposed to be vibrant and tone it down, and it's lifeless. It has no what's the expression that they use? It's not it's not emotive. It has no motion to it. It has no sense of like dynamic to it. It's just very just blah. Yes, it's true. Yeah, black and white images, especially, you go back to looking at AD&D first edition, that stuff in there, just phenomenal. Okay, I am actually going to be wrapping this up, so I can go take care of a few family things here, put my daughter's car in the garage and such. So I am going to be wrapping this up, everyone. So Thanks. Apologize for the short notice. I think I only gave you a few hours notice before this was coming on, and wanted to hit home on that, on that main topic of, Joe Manganiello's, declaration that D&D 5e really started to decline in 2019. I certainly agree with him. And I agree, to a great extent on his, his attributing that to Mike Merles' departure from the lead position to begin with. And now, since he's left Wizards of the Coast altogether, there's very little chance that it will correct itself. And thanks to all of you for stopping in. And I'll be back tomorrow with something else on the video lineup. You all have a great one. Take care.